Hey everybody, welcome back to the 80s Slashers YouTube channel. In this video, I will be ranking my top 5 slashers from the year 1983. Now, if you haven't already checked it out, you might want to go back and watch my previous video I made called 1983, The Year in Slashers. You might want to check that one out. It will give you a better idea of the overall, the overall look and feel of the year in slashers before we get into ranking my top 5 here. But in that video, I discussed how 1983 was a year in which I believe the slasher genre took a small step forward from 1982, a year in which that I kind of feel like it suffered like almost like a sophomore slump after the unbelievable 1981. So even though 1983 it was the first year in the 80s up to that point that had the least amount of slashers released, as well as having no films from the three big franchises, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street. It was still able to, it seemed it was still able to bring the audiences back to the theaters a little bit. And I think it did it by releasing just some fantastic films. As you can see some of the ones here. It just, I don't know, it gave the audiences what they wanted. Mostly really good blood and guts and kills and stuff like that they want and expect from their slasher film. Um, so yeah, now I I also mentioned this in the 1983 Year in Slashers video, but I will mention it again here. Just for those who might not have seen that video yet, but due to foreign release dates, there will be some videos, or, I'm sorry, there will be some films included on this list that were originally released in the country that they were made, um, like in an earlier year. But they didn't actually get a North American release until 1983, so that's why they're here. In that previous video, I go into further detail as to why exactly I'm doing this. But it's basically just a personal decision based on the desire to attempt to capture that year in slashers for the typical American Canadian moviegoer at that time. So like I said, if you want to know my reasoning and logic behind that, go back and watch the 1983 Year in Slashers video, and I break it down a little more of why I'm doing that. But just an FYI that this video will contain some films that some people may not view as 1983 films, but they're included on this list. All right. So with all that out of the way, let's just get right into the rankings. So all right, so yeah, let's start it off and look at number 5. All right, so coming at number 5, we have Curtains. So yeah, this is a Canadian film that is sort of a different film from most other 80s slashers in that it was, in my opinion, it was clearly made for a more mature audience. I don't know if this was, particularly meant for teens, because like all of the cast and the characters are adults, and they're dealing with adult problems and issues. Due to this, it kind of has a kind of like a classy feel to it, if that makes sense. It doesn't feel like your typical silly 80s, nonsense, that we love, but, it just, teenagers doing silly, stupid teenager stuff, and, they're getting killed for it. This is um, a different type of story, a different type of acting. Yeah, that's what this is. But, you know, despite all that, it still follows the regular 80s slasher formula. And it just has a lot of really great moments. Um, Now, this isn't like, I wouldn't consider this the most gory slasher. There's not like a, like the typical, all the type of nudity, you usually see in these films. It's not, it's not the type of film that this is. But it's just, overall, it's just a really solid slasher, a strong story, good character development, some really good set pieces. Yeah, it's just a really enjoyable slasher. And I said there's there's a highlight scene in this. You can see it right here. There basically it's like it starts off as like a figure skating scene, so like a girl's figure skating on like a pond or a lake, isolated, and the killer wearing this hideous hag mask with this big, this big curved bladed weapon starts chasing her on skates. So there's like a chase scene on skates. It's like, typically Canadian, of course. And there's some great music playing, and like the mask is horrifying. The way it was filmed, the way like their skate, like the killer is like skating. It's a highlight scene. It's worth the mission alone. Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, so I really like Curtains. Again, it's not your typical 80s slasher, um, but it's a good one. So yeah, coming in at number five, we have Curtains. All right, let's move on to number four. All right, so coming at number four, we have Bloody Moon. Now, this is a Spanish film, and again, this was released in Spain and I believe Germany in 1981. So technically, this is a 1981 film, but it didn't get released in North America until 1983. So that's why it's included here, because if you were an American or a Canadian teenager, um, you wouldn't have seen this movie until 1983. So it would have been part of your, the summer of 83 kind of thing. That's why it's here. Um, anyway, regardless of all that, this is a fantastic slasher slash giallo hybrid film, and it's equal parts gore and equal parts sleaze. It's just a perfect mix of the two. A lot of these Italian, or like this is Spanish, so a lot of these European type giallo horror type films, they always have that little sleaze factor. I don't know what it is. They just the type of filmmaking that they were into, and this one does it quite well. Yeah, there's there's some pretty good sleazy, bloody goodness in this film. The film takes place at like a language training school in Spain, and it seems like all the students at this school are blonde German, students who've come to Spain to learn to speak Spanish, I guess. And every woman in this film is just absolutely beautiful, and it's almost like a, I don't know. It's something that when I watch this film, it stands out to me. And usually you get like the typical American teenage girls, and there's, like the sporty one, the attractive one, the nerdy, the good girl. And all these women in this film are just beautiful, platinum blonde German women. I don't know, not a big deal, but just something that stood out to me. Very good. And again, this isn't your typical 80s slasher, just because it has all those influences from like the Spanish Italian horror genre. Um, but it's still just so much fun. Like I said, the plot is fairly strange. The resolution of the plot is definitely strange. There's there's themes of incest mixed in with the plot, which is really weird. But if you're familiar with the Italian um, giallo genre of film, you'll feel comfortable with this. You'll like it. It'll just feel like a normal film. If you haven't seen a lot of those films, you might be asking yourself, "What am I watching? This is a very strange plot." Like, and but again, it's just for these type of filmmakers, it was just the normal thing that they did. I don't know. Now the highlights of this film are the kills and the nudity. Like, um, it's what this is what the genre is known for: kills and nudity, and a cool setting usually. And the kills and the nudity in this film are great. There's a ton of each, and some of them are mixed together, which I always appreciate when there's like the nudity is mixed together with the kill. It's just, I don't know, it's like a bonus or something. You just it just it's I don't know, it's the sleaziness, I guess. It plays into it. Um, so that's great. Yeah, like I said, this is like the best word to describe some of the stuff is sleazy. This was a video nasty in the UK, and it was banned in several countries when it was first released. And it's understandable when you watch it now. There's some scenes in this film that are just like they're pretty graphic. They're pretty graphic. Like I said, there's some incest stuff going on. There's some non-consensual sex scenes going on, and like the violence. Like I said, there's like mutilation of female body parts. There's a lot of stuff going on, but just on the cover here, there's a highlight scene in this film. It involves a circular saw, and it's unbelievable. If you haven't seen this film, this one circular saw kill is just it's it's I think it is it's the most graphic on-screen kill I think I've ever seen in the 80s slasher genre. It's a must see. I don't want to spoil it for anyone. Anyone who's seen it knows exactly what I'm talking about. But if you haven't seen it, just like obviously they put it on the cover. Like that's not the actress. I don't know who that actress is, but yeah, like look at some of this. All the picture. There's just decapitated head, blood. It's great, man. There's so much good stuff going on in this film. Yeah, so this is just a really fun slasher giallo hybrid with everything you want and expect from one of these films, plain and simple. So yeah, so coming at number four, we have Bloody Moon. All right, let's move on to number three. All right, so coming at number three, we have Pieces. Now again, this is also a Spanish film. It's like a Spanish American co-production, but it was originally released in 1982 in Spain, but it didn't see a North American release until 1983. So that is why it is here. But I think this is most well regarded as a 1982 film. But again, for the sake of just continuity for the series of videos I'm doing, I'm including it as an 83 film. So yeah, so Pieces. This is one of the most ridiculous and over the top slashers in the entire genre. But it's one of the most fun too. If like a good analogy is if you're familiar with the film Spinal Tap, everything in this film is turned up to 11. Um, like the kills, the blood, the nudity, just everything is just over the top. Some of the dialogue, it's just some of the scenes. There's like random kung fu fighting scenes thrown in for no reason, just as a laugh, or I don't know. It's just everything's just over the top, and it's just I love it. It's so fun. Um, yeah, there's not many films like this. Like in right from the get go. There's a scene right from the get go. I'll probably put it on, include it in this video here. Um, but yeah, it just starts off crazy and it just doesn't let up. It's just over the top blood and guts, and it's really fun. Like I said, this is also a slasher giallo hybrid, but it to me anyway, it leans more slasher. But some of the plot elements are definitely giallo inspired. I guess when they're writing the script, they just can't get away from that because that's what they know, I guess. But the way it was filmed and whatnot, it's really a slasher film. Now, if you if you haven't seen Pieces, it's kind of hard to describe in words exactly what type of film it is. Yeah, you can say it's a slasher giallo hybrid, but it's not like any giallo I've ever seen. It's not like any slasher I've ever seen. It's just yeah, it's hard to put the right words of what type of film it is because it's just kind of its own unique thing. Yeah, now I can see how it like if I can see how somebody can watch this film and not like it. Like this film is definitely not for everyone. But if this type of film is up your alley, like there's not like you'll have so much fun with this. There's not many more films you can have that you have more of a fun time with than this. Um, yeah, it's just fun. It's just an over the top film. Tons of gratuitous violence, tons of gratuitous nudity. Again, the kills and the nudity are mixed together. A couple scenes. It's just so much fun. Yeah, if you haven't seen Pieces, I recommend it to everybody. Like I said, a warning: you may not like it. It may not be your type of film. But if you like the sleazy, the over the top, the ridiculous violence, like we're talking like, chainsaw, like um, cutting limbs off. Like basically, what the what the story is a killer is on the loose, trying to build, um, I guess his own woman, perfect woman, and he comes across a victim, and says, "Oh, I like this woman's arms, so I'm going to take the arms." So he takes a chainsaw and cuts the arms off. And then he goes and sees, "Oh, I like her head," and cuts the head off. And he's constructing like his own perfect woman. And, there's a backstory and it all plays out weirdly at the end. But you see this, like, you see like chainsaw attacks and like, it's brutal, man. Like it's over the top and it's crazy. Um, yeah, I don't know what else to say. Pieces is fantastic. So yeah, coming in at number three is Pieces. All right, let's take a look at number two. All right, so coming in at number two, we have The House on Sorority Row. Now, in my opinion, this film is the quintessential sorority slash frat house style slasher. The vibe of like college students and their lifestyle, especially during the 80s, is just, they just nail it in this film. It's just, the actors are great. Like the look and the feel of the actual sorority house that they're in is fantastic. It's, yeah, just the overall setting for this. It mostly takes place at a sorority house. There's some other locations, but a large majority it takes place in the sorority house, and it's just a fantastic. Just I think it's a great setting for a slasher. It just I don't know, just something about the overall feel to this film is just something that I just really dig. I just really like it. And for the plot of this film, it's, I enjoy this type of plot. It's we've seen it before. It's, a prank goes wrong. There's an attempt to cover up. And then all of a sudden, some past secrets come to light. Culminating in, a killer on the loose, knocking off, students one by one. Again, it's nothing original. It's not nothing we haven't seen a ton of times. But it's just, I don't know. It's just done really well here. I don't know if it's just like the script or like in the acting, and just, I don't know, it just all kind of came together really well for the way they told the story. And like I said, this is 83. You know, this type of story was done before. And it's done after. But this is an early version for, we're, 83, we're still in the early stages of the 80s slasher genre. So, um at the time it wasn't something that type of plot wasn't overused. Um but it was done, like I said, it was done better than most. So yeah, it's one of the things I really like about this film. um, the kills, there's nothing outstanding. Like when we're talking about like Bloody Moon or Pieces, like the kills in that film are just, they stand out so much. This film doesn't have that. There's definitely some highlight kills in this. um, there's an infamous scene with like a toilet, like a head in a toilet. There's some really good stuff for sure. But they're just solid kills, solid film. And for me, like I found it was like, well, what made the kills just a little bit better is, There was some good tension in this film. You know, a lot of these 80s slashers, they're not really tense. You know, maybe they were back then, but now watching them, they're not that tense. They're not that scary. They're just more of an entertaining thing. But this one, you know, has some tension, which I always appreciate if they can actually create, some good tension throughout the film. It elevates the kills. And when you enjoy the characters and the character development is good, the kills mean more. So, um, yeah, this film did it really well. It's just a really well made film, in my opinion. Now, the thing that always stands out with me, and I remember the most watching this film, is the finale. And like, again, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a finale takes place up in the attic of the sorority house, and there's a clown that's involved, and it's really freaky, really creepy. It's still every time I watch it, it still is able to just like make the hair on my arms stand up. Every time I watch it, it's just that's doing something. They did something right. It's the tension. It's the creepy imagery. Um, yeah, like the attic is just a great spooky location, and just like once you learn the backstory and like the conclusion, it comes together. It's just yeah, it's really good. So I really like the house on Sorority Row. Of course, this had a what do you call it? A like a reboot. Uh, they made another one of these, a follow-up film in like the 2000s. It was just called Sorority Row, and yeah, I like that one too. I think that one got a lot of hate, to be honest. But I liked it. It was the same type of thing. A prank gone wrong and like backstory coming to light and people start getting killed. Same idea, but it was set more towards modern times. Cell phones and all that kind of stuff and social media and whatnot. But yeah, I liked it. So, but not as good as the original, obviously. So, yeah, coming in at number two is The House on Sorority Row. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at number one. All right, so coming in at number one, of course, is Sleepaway Camp. Now I believe that Sleepaway Camp is the most disturbing 80s slasher of all time. Um, Obviously, the ending of this film gets talked about endlessly, and rightfully so. It's horrifying. But there's so many other messed up things in this film. We have, multiple scenes discussing, pedophilia. There's, a scene of like a brutal killing of multiple children while they, innocent children while they just slept in their sleeping bags. Very unsettling. There's some really weird flashback backstory scenes, that has like a homosexual and like an incest themed connotations to it. Like it's not really clear. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in some of those backstories, just really disturbing. And of course, we have Aunt Martha, one of the creepiest characters I've ever seen in a film. It's yeah, Aunt Martha. Just the look of her, the way that she looks, the way that she delivers lines, the words that she's using, like, and then as we find it as the film goes on, the motives for her, like what she did and what she it's all very disturbing, very uncomfortable. Um, yeah, it's so disturbing. But besides all the disturbing, the disturbing nature of this film, um, another thing that's really unique about this is the kills. This film has really unique kills. Yeah, it has, there's a couple stabbing deaths and whatnot, but there's some really weird ones, like mean-spirited. You got death by, well, I don't know if the person actually died, but death by like boiling water. I think the last time we saw the character, they were still alive, but they may have died. Who knows? But again, mean spirited, dumping boiling water all over somebody, terrible. Death by Bees is another one that stands out. It's just stuff like that. Like you don't. They're creative. They're unique. You don't usually see them. Usually you see like bladed weapons as almost always kills, and the killer in this film was creative, unique, and a little mean. So it's kind of something that made this film always stand out for me as well. Um, yeah, so I really like that. Now I won't get into it too much, but this film, this I saw this film for the first time. I think I was about 11 or 12 years old, which is way too young to be watching this film. And I still have vivid memories. It was one of those things. It was my brother had a VHS copy. I snuck into his room. He wasn't home. I saw this cover, the thing, Sleepaway Camp, and at that point, I had already seen some of the Friday the 13th films. So I was like, oh, great. This is like something like Friday the 13th. So I put it in, watched it, and I still remember, like, I don't remember all the details about it, but I still remember that feeling as the credits rolled. That last scene, what I just watched, I just remember sitting on the bed, just numb and confused. Like what? Like I didn't, I didn't comprehend what I saw, and it messed me up for like I don't know, like a while. Like I couldn't stop thinking about this film. And I was like, I asked my brother, and I was like, what is? And I was so confused, and yeah, and I stepped away from it for, I don't know, for maybe 5, 10 years until I came back to it when I was, probably 20 or so, and I watched it again, and I got those same feelings every time Aunt Martha came on the screen, and it flashed back to that traumatic experience watching this the first time. Yeah, I don't know, I just have a history with this film, and, any film that's able to affect me for 30 years, it did something right, whether you like it or not. It's an effective film, and it did really well at the box office. Obviously, word of mouth, people saw this, they saw the ending, and they went home, picked up their rotary telephones, and were like, hey, you gotta go to the theater to check out Sleepaway Camp. You won't believe how this film ends. That's what went on in '83. And it did really well at the theater. I think it made over like um, I don't know. It made like 10 to 12 million dollars. I forget the numbers. Go back and check 1983 year in slashes. All that information is in that video. It did really well, and yeah, it's just word of mouth. No internet back then. It's just yeah, it did a really good job. It's a fun film. Nothing quite else like it in the genre. So yeah, that's it. That's my number one of '83, Sleepaway Camp. So that's it, guys. That's the top five. So yeah. So once again, thanks everyone for sticking around and watching the whole video. Subscribing, leaving comments, hitting the thumbs up. All that's appreciated. If you want to check out my 1983 year in slashers video, I'll put a link in the description, and I'll put a link on the end of this video here. And if you also want to check out a full review of Sleepaway Camp that I did, again, I'll put the link in the description, and I'll also put it on the end of the video here as well. All right, guys. So that's it. So yeah, until next time. All right. See ya.